The revolutionary power of ugly healing. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Kyesha Johnson, known to many as Minister Speaks, the visionary founder of Worldly Ministries. What makes Kyesha's impact so profound is her radical commitment to truth telling in spaces where performance and perfectionism have long been the expected norm. Her work has fundamentally transformed how we understand healing, vulnerability, and spiritual authenticity, particularly for Black women. She stands as a revolutionary voice, a spiritual disruptor who dares to say what others won't. That sometimes the most divine moments happen when we're at our most broken, most raw, most human. Today, I want to share with you the revolutionary insights I gained from my conversation with Kyesha. Because what she's discovered about authentic healing doesn't just apply to spiritual journeys, it speaks to every aspect of our lives where we've been taught that composure matters more than truth, that appearance trumps authenticity, and that strength means never showing weakness. We've been sold a dangerous illusion about healing. The wellness industry packages healing as something aesthetically pleasing. A beautiful woman meditating peacefully on a beach at sunset. Social media shows us the after pictures of transformation journeys, carefully filtered and captioned with inspirational quotes. Even in professional settings, we're expected to process our challenges with dignity, returning to productivity with minimal disruption. But what if this entire framework is fundamentally wrong? What if true healing isn't Instagram worthy at all? This is the counterintuitive truth that Kyesha Johnson's work reveals. Authentic healing requires dismantling the performance. It's messy, it's raw. It often involves breaking apart completely before rebuilding. And particularly for Black women who have been conditioned for generations to maintain composure even while suffering, this message is nothing short of revolutionary. Consider the soul food confessionals that Kyesha created. These are 30-second raw videos featuring character voices that speak uncomfortable truths, truths many of us are afraid to acknowledge even to ourselves. In a world where spiritual content often sanitizes the messy reality of healing, Kyesha dared to create something different. She told me about 10-year-old Vanna, one of her character voices, who speaks with the unfiltered honesty that only children possess. In one confessional, Vanna says, "Sometimes I hate the people who hurt me, and I don't know if that makes me a bad person." Another character, 15-year-old Nate, admits, "I prayed and prayed and nothing changed, and I'm starting to wonder if anyone's even listening." These aren't polished sermons. They're mirrors reflecting the messy reality of our inner lives. And when Kyesha first shared these confessionals, something remarkable happened. People who had felt excluded from traditional spiritual spaces, particularly Black women who rarely see their full emotional range represented, suddenly felt seen. They messaged Kyesha saying, "This is the first time I've felt like my real feelings were allowed in a spiritual conversation." The confessionals became a spiritual lifeline for the broken, the bitter, the burnt out. People who needed permission to be honest about where they really were in their journey. This approach has revolutionized how spiritual content can be delivered, proving that brevity and authenticity can sometimes reach people more effectively than lengthy, polished sermons. But here's where it gets even more interesting. What if our moments of deepest pain, the ones we try desperately to hide, actually contain the seeds of our greatest purpose? What if, as Kyesha puts it, your cry can become your calling? Let me share with you the pivotal moment that transformed Kyesha's life and eventually led to her founding Worldly Ministries. It happened in a hospital room after childbirth, a time when many women feel particularly vulnerable. Keisha was facing postpartum depression, relationship confusion, betrayal from close connections, and spiritual emptiness while maintaining a strong exterior. In that hospital room, something broke open. After years of being the strong one, the faith talker, and the go to girl, Kiesha finally allowed herself to fully express years of suppressed pain. She didn't just cry, she screamed. She didn't just feel sad, she raged. She allowed herself to be ugly in her pain, to be messy in her breakdown, to be completely unfiltered in her expression. The hospital staff was concerned. Friends were uncomfortable. But in that moment of complete surrender to her pain, Kiesha experienced something profound. As she describes it, she didn't lose herself, she found her, reconnecting with authentic parts of herself she had buried to make others comfortable. In the midst of her ugly crying, a profound spiritual affirmation emerged. God, I give you back the pieces of me they couldn't love. This statement became foundational to her ministry, a recognition that sometimes our most authentic connection to the divine happens not in our composed, presentable moments, but in our raw, unfiltered ones. This experience shaped her understanding that sometimes the spirit meets you in the ugly, challenging, conventional religious perspectives, that spiritual experiences must be dignified or composed. What's remarkable about this story isn't just the personal transformation, it's that Kiesha recognized a universal truth in her experience. That vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the birthplace of authentic power. Think about that for a moment. Our culture teaches us to hide our struggles, to present a polished exterior, to fake it till we make it. But what if this approach actually prevents us from accessing our deepest strength and purpose? This insight led Kiesha to establish Worldly Ministries as a sanctuary for those marginalized by traditional spiritual spaces. Many people, especially Black women, felt excluded from religious communities when their healing wasn't linear or their expression wasn't appropriate. They needed spiritual guidance that acknowledged their real struggles. Worldly Ministries was created specifically for the ones the church ignored, the ones therapy couldn't fix, and the ones who didn't just backslide. They fell off the cliff and still came crawling back to God. It has become a spiritual home for those who felt they had to choose between their authenticity and their faith, proving that messy humanity and spiritual calling can coexist. After experiencing her own spiritual homelessness and seeing others similarly displaced, Keisha recognized the need for a ministry that didn't require people to perform healing or hide their struggles. The ministry has redefined spiritual leadership by embracing vulnerability as strength and creating space for ugly deliverance rather than polished performance. This approach has particularly resonated with Black women who have historically been expected to be strong regardless of their suffering, offering them permission to be a hot mess and still be holy. But there's a third insight from my conversation with Keisha that might be the most radical of all. Choosing yourself is sacred work. Perhaps the most revolutionary act for many Black women is prioritizing their own well being after generations of putting others first. Kiesha's insight that healing sometimes requires you To be the villain in someone else's story liberates us from the burden of people pleasing and offers a pathway to reclaiming our souls and voices. This is particularly powerful in professional contexts, where Black women often feel pressure to overperform while underplaying their needs. The strong Black woman trope doesn't just exist in personal relationships, it permeates workplace dynamics too. What would it mean to bring this philosophy of authentic healing into our professional lives? What if we stop performing competence when we're struggling? What if we acknowledged when systems aren't working for us instead of contorting ourselves to fit within them? Kiesha's work suggests that this kind of authenticity isn't just personally liberating, it's transformative for communities. When one person breaks the unspoken rule that says, keep it together at all costs, they create permission for others to be honest about their struggles too. I want to be clear. This isn't about performative vulnerability, sharing struggles for attention or sympathy. It's about the radical act of being honest about where you are, even when, especially when, it doesn't look pretty or inspirational. In a world obsessed with optimization and productivity, there's something profoundly countercultural about embracing the messy, nonlinear nature of authentic healing. There's something revolutionary about saying, I'm not okay right now, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. So today I stand before you with a challenge to reconsider everything you thought you knew about healing, strength, and authenticity. I challenge you to examine the masks you wear, the performances you maintain, the parts of yourself you've hidden away because they weren't palatable or acceptable. What would happen if you allowed yourself one honest, unfiltered cry, not for attention, but for liberation? What would change if you stopped performing wellness when you're still in the process? What might open up if you embraced the revolutionary power of ugly healing? Remember what Kyesha has shown us. You can cry and still be called. You can be real and still be redeemed. You can be a hot mess and still be holy. Your breakthrough might be waiting on the other side of your breakdown. Your purpose might be hidden in your pain. Your greatest contribution to this world might come not from your perfection, but from your willingness to be truthful about your imperfection. In the words that echo throughout Kiesha's ministry, the world doesn't need more perfect people, it needs more honest ones. I invite you, no, I dare you, to be one of those honest ones, to embrace the ugly parts of your healing journey, to trust that your authenticity, even when it's messy, creates more possibility than your performance ever could. Because true revolution doesn't begin with systems or structures. It begins with one person brave enough to tell the truth. And today, that person could be you. Thank you.